Hey, I'm Matt Brown from Matt Brown's Guitar Studio in Chicago and the band Dead Parade. So I'm back with another lesson on bar chords. So this one is going to be all about changing to and from bar chords. So to kind of organize yourself to maximize your practice time, there are three kind of areas that you want to start working on with bar chord changes. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is just moving purely from a horizontal perspective. You know, like moving a bar chord shape, the same bar chord shape up and down that way. To give you an overview of the other topics I'm going to talk about are changing between open chords and bar chords, so a combination of those two chord types. And then the ultimate challenge is kind of mixing up various different types of bar chords and open chords together. So we're going to get into all of that in this lesson. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about kind of horizontal approach. So if you're struggling with making bar chord changes from a purely horizontal perspective, something you want to go back and practice a little bit is some songs that just use power chords that move horizontally. So, you know, a lot of the Nirvana stuff is great. Probably the song I teach the most for this kind of thing is When I Come Around by Green Day. So I'm not going to teach the song, but just to show you the progression, we've got a G5, D5, E5, C5 in the chord progression. So, you know, you don't even have to play the song necessarily, but just, you know, work on quarter note strums. You want to play along with a metronome too. And then usually the second step to get good at this kind of thing is to do eighth note strumming. And I'll fill you in after I demonstrate this on some things that you're going to want to do. Alright, so probably what you noticed is I was throwing in some little open string strums in between some of the chords. So that's an essential and a necessity when you're moving between two chords that are maybe on different strings or of different shapes. On that last eighth note strum, you don't have enough time to just like time warp your hands to the next chord. So you have to throw in something like some open strings if they sound good. Now I don't have to when it's the exact same shape, so I'm just moving boom, boom. So you do have enough time to do that. The other thing that you might have to do if the open strings sound bad, like for instance, if I do an A flat to an E flat chord, chords with lots of flats, you know, I mean, this is a pretty ugly sound. So what you might have to do in that situation is do a muted strum. So basically you're moving the hand into position to the next chord and strumming some muted strings in time to get to the next chord. So the next step that you want to do is just add in one finger, the middle finger. So what I'm going to demonstrate here is the chorus section to Heaven Beside You by Alice in Chains. So it's just a really good song to work on this kind of thing. We're just moving this shape across the 6 strings. So I'll play it for you here. Repeats here. Alright, so just like I said, we're taking this shape across, we're leaving the 2 high strings open, so we're going where the first finger is playing 5th fret, 3rd fret, 8th fret, 7th fret. So, you know, just another good exercise to get your hands moving in this kind of horizontal fashion. Okay, let's get into topic number 2, changing between open chords and bar chords. So this is what I find most kind of beginner to intermediate guitarists struggle with. And it's really pretty simple. Kind of think of it this way. If you're playing classical guitar, your thumb always has to be against the back of the fretboard. You just can't really play comfortably any other way. With an acoustic, regular acoustic guitar or electric guitar, with your open chords, you might find it is a little bit more comfortable to bring the thumb up. You know, for me, especially like the A chord is one, D, E in general. it puts a little bit more tension on your wrist to put the thumb all the way against the back. So I guess long story short, it's fine in my opinion to, if you play your open chords with the thumb up, there's nothing wrong with that if that feels more comfortable for you, especially if you have big hands. Where you will run into problems though is, let's say we're changing from a C chord, any sort of open chord, to like a barred F chord. So right off the bat you probably saw, if my thumb is up here like this, to go to that F chord, I've got to bring the thumb all the way down here and then move the other fingers into place as well. So that's what you want to avoid doing. If you have a bar chord in a progression, what you need to do is plan ahead one chord in advance. So if I know I'm coming to a C and an F, when I play the C chord, I want to play the C with, quote, classical thumb position. So keeping my thumb in the same spot where it's going to be for the next chord F. So as you can see, if I go C to F, my fingers have like almost, barely any distance to cover. Whereas with this, I had to like move my whole arm and hands into place. So that's the key. Just practice your chord changes, whatever chord changes you need to make in the song, and make sure that the thumb is in the right spot for both of them. Now this also applies if you're going to another open chord afterwards. So if, let's say I have to go C, F, back to C, I still want to keep my C in kind of the classical position, because if I had to go from this to like this to play my C, it's going to cause tons of problems. So to work on the skill of changing between bar chords and open chords, the song that I like to work on is Like a Rolling Stone by Bob Dylan. And the reason why is it has almost all of the chords in the key of C in just one bar chord. So the pre-chorus chord progression to this song, think of it in alphabetical order. It goes C, D minor, E minor, to a barred F, and then to a G. So it's perfect exercise for this kind of thing. So I'll play it for you. I'll repeat it. So I'm simplifying the rhythm a little bit here, if you're familiar with the song. But anyway, notice how when the E minor came around, I started to bring my thumb down. So when I went to the F, I'm good and ready to go. I don't have to move a whole lot. Alright, now the next topic I'll talk about is moving between various bar chords and open chords, kind of all over the fretboard. So I actually used the same song, Like a Rolling Stone, the pre-chorus part to this song, the C, D minor, E minor, F, and G part. And so what you want to do is, one chord at a time, just sub in a bar chord version of that chord. So we have already got an F bar chord, so we'll leave that alone. So maybe let's start with this version of C instead of the open C, and play the chord progression that way. Alright, then the next step would be to maybe keep the C bar chord, maybe put in a D minor bar chord, and then we'll go to the regular E minor, so like... Alright, so maybe we'll change the E into a minor bar chord. And this is going to pretty much take me up the whole fretboard here, so kind of more horizontal. Alright, so yeah, then maybe I'll play everything except for E minor and D minor as bar chords. So just, some simple exercises to get you going, and you can really make an exercise out of any song like this where, you've got a decent amount of chords in the chord progression. So in summary, just remember these key tips. If you're going to or from a bar chord, make sure the chord before and after has proper thumb placement, not, thumb up here, so thumb against the back of the fretboard. That you might have to throw in some open strings or muted strings when changing between various bar chord shapes from a kind of a horizontal perspective. And just to kind of practice some of these key songs that I talked to you about. And if you have any questions or you're still struggling with bar chords, please write in and tell me what problems you might be facing. And there's probably a few tips that I haven't covered, so I'd be glad to cover that in another lesson. All right, thanks a lot for watching, guys. Got plenty more coming. I'm going to be doing a song lesson next time, so stick around. Thanks.